evening. You're watching Primetime Debate. Earlier this week, the Reserve Bank of India released a set of fresh guidelines to deal with bad loans or NPAs. This new set of rules are more stringent and would give very little space to defaulting companies from getting fresh credit while not repaying their loans. Earlier schemes like the SDR, that is the Strategic Debt Restructuring, and CDR, Corporate Debt Restructuring, have been scrapped. These schemes were a sort of last chance or halfway house that defaulting companies had before they were shut down. So stressed assets now above 5 crore rupees will be identified immediately and reported weekly. The process of resolution will also begin immediately. A number of analysts have said that while there may be some short-term pain, in the long term, these new rules will help clean up the system. But can the banking system in its current state withstand these new stricter rules? To speak on this, I'm joined this evening by former RBI Deputy Governor K.C. Chakravarti and Krishnamurthy Subramaniam, Associate Professor of Finance at ISB. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Mr. Chakravarti, what is your view on what these new guidelines have come in as? Is it the right time?
Yeah, I think, you see, time is definitely right, because you see, if time is not right, I will say it is delayed too much. So that's why the time has to be said right. Only thing that if you say time is not right, it is delayed. Look, there is nothing wrong in the circular. Principles are very well read. First thing, if somebody is sick, it has to be identified as quickly as possible. Then immediately start taking the action. If within the organization you are not able to take action, if you need to sacrifice, if you want to change the ownership, go to the resolution council as quickly as possible so that entire thing is resolved as quickly. I don't think anybody is going to object to that. But the devil lies in the implementation. Is our system ready? You can send a particular proposal to the resolution council. Will be able to resolve it. And if these are not resolved, the only thing what will happen, that banks will be making provision, borrowers will not get the credit, and what will happen to the system, that we have to look into that. Yes, over a period of time, system will get adjusted to these things, and my view is that it will be good for the system. But I have one more objection from the philosophical point of view. When you are saying, you are talking of accounts of more than 20 billion, accounts of 1 billion. I think when you are framing the rule should be made applicable to everybody. In fact, in any democratic society, rule is applicable, law is applicable more forcefully for the smaller people, poorer people. It is only rich and privileged they escape the law. But when you prepare a law and say that it will be not applicable to MSME, it will not happen to the natural calamities, I have a problem. And I think that is where we are distorting the system. If this is the rule, this should be made applicable to everybody. Yes, you subsidize the people at this stage of implementation, I have no problem. But you cannot say that rule will be not applicable to some other people, and especially those who are underprivileged. It never happened in a democratic system. And you frame a rule and you say that rule will be not applicable to the weaker people. On the contrary, it happens just the opposite.
Mr. Subramanian, here Mr. K.C. Chakravarti seems to be saying that these rules are not strict enough. They should be actually applied across the board. But I just want to go back to where some of the genesis of the current situation is. When we were in a situation where clearances weren't coming through, there were a lot of infra-intensive sectors which turned into NPAs because what was supposed to happen in timeline in terms of government policy did not take place. Some could argue there were factors which were beyond the control of some of these debtors. How does that sit in with the current guidelines?
So let me just first start by mentioning that, what the Reserve Bank has done is something that was long overdue. I want to remind our viewers about the report that the PGNI committee had written. This was in May 2014. At that time itself, we had flagged off the issue of regulatory forbearance, possible regulatory forbearance, and the extent of non-performing assets actually that was sitting in the books of the banks, and which were being called basically euphemistically restructured assets. And we had pointed out that the market at that time was actually treating the restructured assets as non-performing assets itself. The second point that I want to actually make is, for instance, the circular talks about the use of the CLIC, which is a database of large borrowers. This is something which is actually absolutely required. We had while working on the committee's work, we had actually found that there are several instances of information not being shared among banks about the same borrower, and thereby the same borrower getting multiple loans actually when the borrower may not be deserving of that. So I think these are just definitely overdue, which should have been done. Now to come to your main question about whether this is strict or not, and the fact that some of these actually might have been because of bad luck. So let me point out, we have to understand how an equity contract is structured. When you have promoters or the founders of the firm, they actually are equity holders. Now, they do enjoy the benefits when luck goes their way, right? If, for instance, it's an oil firm and let's say oil price moves up, for which they have nothing to do with, they actually enjoy the benefits that come from the same. So the counter that therefore is that if things don't go their way, that is part of the risk that they're taking and the reward that they get actually. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Therefore, I would actually advocate that whether the default happens because of reasons that are beyond the borrower's control, or the default happens because of reasons that are actually within his control. The fact is, an equity contract means that if you don't repay, you have to actually cede control to the creditor. That is what the essence of a contract is, and therefore that is something that has to be upheld. If we go back, you have to remember that in India, for instance, a lot of the borrowers enjoy what is called a super equity, which is that they actually get to keep the gains when things go their way, even if they are just lucky. But at the same time, when things don't go their way, they actually, still continue to be in control, which was what it was, till recently. I think that is something that has to change. I must just add one other aspect. Some of my research actually has been doing on willful defaulters. And what is important actually is that willful defaulters, for instance, happens on a systematic basis actually, and it is not something that happens actually overnight. There are a set of signals that crop out, which actually are oftentimes are not heeded to. So this is something which actually is a step in the right direction. You need this kind of change cannot happen without some pain. That pain has to be borne, but right now the banking system, the kind of stress it is in, it needs medicine that actually will definitely work. It may be painful, but that is
no, absolutely. And let me make it clear, I'm not here suggesting that willful defaulters should get any special sympathy, not at all. My question, very simply, Mr. Chakravarti, is that the banking system needs medicine right now. That's why we've called the show Bitter Pill. Is the state of the banking system strong enough to withstand this level or this dosage of medication, if I may take that analogy forward? And what is the impact it will have over the next few months and perhaps years?
You see, look, if you are weak, if you are sick, you cannot say, I will not give the strong doses of medicine. All you have to give more healthier diet. So that is what the banks require. They require capital infusion. But you cannot avoid taking these steps. You need to infuse the more capital in the banks and make the system clean and make it uniformly applicable to everybody. That's my view. There is nothing wrong in the guidelines to say that I am sick, so I am not capable enough taking the strong dose medicine. It does not work. It does not save the person.
Okay, let's talk a bit about impact, Mr. Chakravarti. How do you see this impacting the industry over the next few weeks?
I will not. I say that how it will be implemented. Impact will be on the basis of the implementation. If it is implemented, people will be not able to do the business unless they bring the equity. people who have not assessed the risk properly, they should not come forward for doing the business. Your appraisal method, risk management system, this will be more stringent in made applicable. So all what I'm saying, good borrowers will get the credit. Borrowers who are not good, as per the proper appraisal of the loan application, they will not get the credit. And for that, borrowers who are having the equity support, they will be preferred by the banking system.
Okay, Mr. Subramaniam wanted to come in. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I want to point out that this comment about is the banking system ready? I've been hearing this comment since 2014. In fact, even before. It is like I'm going to give you a parallel where have a heart patient actually who's been diagnosed with heart problem, and then we basically keep saying that is the patient ready for a bypass? He needs a bypass, and we've been saying no, he's not ready, and actually we keep putting band-aid over it, and the problem basically becomes from a single bypass, now we are actually at a stage of a quadruple bypass, and there is no way we can actually escape this. So this the fact is, across whether you actually look at any country, right, a banking crisis, the sooner it is nipped in the bud, the less the pain. And we've already procrastinated and we've dragged our feet based on this logic, that is the banking sector ready, for almost 4 years. And I think in my opinion, actually enough is enough. Right now, actually the banking sector needs that bitter pill and should be administered right away.
The dangerous thing about this medical analogy is that it's not like there've never been cases where a patient was overdosed more than they could take. But anyway, I'm not going there, Mr. Subramaniam. I'm going to ask you what happens to fledgling industries like the startup sector, which is already struggling in some bits. Mr. Chakravarti spoke about if they are good, they deserve to get credit. If they're bad, they deserve not to. I just come back to the point that is it that easy to distinguish why someone defaults on their payment? Is it as simple as good and bad? Is it that black and white?
So this is where actually, if you look at world over, right, there is a lot of use of analytical models to try and understand, to be able to predict, what kind of, early warning signals on default. And that is where I think the database that has been put together, the CRILIC database, if analytics are used to try and actually understand that, nobody is claiming here that this is actually an easy job. It's a difficult job. It's a job that experts need to actually, get engaged in, definitely, but it is not impossible. Like firms actually and banks do this lending across the world. If you see crises, banking crises actually do not happen very frequently. Those happen only when the kind of lending mechanisms that actually should be used are not used. You have irrational exuberance combined with a macroeconomic shock. So this is definitely possible. Distinguishing between a good and a bad borrower, that is the essence of the business of banking. And when banks actually do their job well, that is precisely what they're supposed to do. And if the mechanisms are actually in place, it's not really rocket science. Actually, it can be done together with the use of wisdom and combined with actually good analytics. So this is not such a difficult thing. It's just that the right balance needs to be mixed. And in fact, let me point out actually the fact that what has been advocated now is actually for loans above a certain threshold limit is something which actually sort of spares the smaller borrowers. Typically, smaller borrowers actually are not the ones that indulge in willful defaulting. If you go and look at the data, the willful default actually is concentrated on the large borrowers. So I think small borrowers will continue to actually get credit as long as they have projects that deserve it.
So that's the point Mr. Chakravarti also made, that it should have been uniform across the board. But yeah, 5 CR onwards is where those stringent rules set in. Thank you so much, Dr. Chakravarti and Mr. Subramaniam, for joining us this evening on the first of the Primetime Debates. The war on black money is on. Measures like increased digital transactions, demonetization, and GST are its most potent weapons. And at the receiving end are supposed to be people who are trying to hide their sources of income. The cause is noble, but why is the war not extended to political funding? Has the current budget made an attempt to give even more secrecy to where political parties get their monies from? The Finance Bill 2018 has in it a proposal to amend the FCRA, that is the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act of 1976, which no longer exists, retrospectively. Effectively, all funds received by foreign companies from 1976 would now no longer be deemed illegal. Clearly, this benefits all political parties, including the BJP and the Congress. So why is a government that claims transparency in all spheres of life so keen to give this gift of secrecy to political parties? To speak on this, I'm joined by Jagdeep Chokhar, founder member of the ADRA, Mohammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress Party, and Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP. Welcome all. Shaina, I will begin with you this evening. The Finance Bill is still being debated in Parliament. Those sessions will start again. Tell us why this attempt has been made. It happened in 2016 and now it's been stretched back all the way to 1976.
Well, this is not the first time that this attempt has been made. I think we need to understand 2-3 things. Number one, our government is absolutely clear that we will not have any kind of malpractice when it comes to election practitioning. We've seen election after election, crores and crores of money, ill-gotten wealth, which has been used in cash all across. And we have actually done away with it under the leadership of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and of course the political will of the Finance Minister Mr. Arun Jaitley too. What is the outcome of this? You have people making donations by check. You have people who are making donations in limited amounts by cash, and it is a transparent process. Now, isn't it necessary to insulate a certain segment that wants to keep a certain kind of ideology intact of their own belief, or they want to have secrecy when it comes to their choice of preference of a political party? What we are proposing to do is obviously going to benefit every political party. It's not just about the BJP or the Congress.
No, absolutely.
Even the smaller parties.
Why
I think that
which is why I'm asking this question today. When we as common citizens have to be transparent about each and every transaction, why are political parties thinking that they're special? What's so special about political parties, ma'am?
It's not about political parties, Tamanna. Please understand that there is a difference when you have a donor who wants their secrecy maintained for reasons best known to him or her. This is not about BJP or Congress. This is about the larger point of a certain kind of discreetness, or if you want to call it secrecy, if you want to call it not revealing one's ideology or preference of leadership because they're worried about being targeted by the opposite party, etc. I think it's imperative to understand that democratic processes need to be deliberated in Parliament. But more importantly, when it comes to funding, and especially election funding, we need to have transparent processes both ways, whether it's check payments or whether it is insulating the donor.
How? You know, I don't know. Mr. Chokhar, can you help me out? How can you talk about transparency when you are making every effort to insulate the donor? And what are these parties afraid of? Why are they amending proposals way back as 1976?
You see, this particular issue of the second attempt at retrospectively amending a law which has not been in existence for 7 years, is not related only to transparency. It is related to foreign money being accepted by at least two parties, BJP and the Congress, as the Delhi High Court has said in its judgment on 28th of March 2014. This particular issue is that these two major political parties accepted money which was under the law considered as coming from foreign sources. Now, this judgment of the Delhi High Court stands today. It had asked the Election Commission and the Government of India to take action against these two parties under the FCRA. No action was taken. Both political parties appealed to the Supreme Court. When they discovered that the law that was amended in 2016 only referred to the FCRA 2010, they withdrew their appeals. Now, this is yet another attempt to amend the 1976 FCRA. Now, the 2010 FCRA says the FCRA 1976 is hereby repealed. FCRA 1976 is a dead law. We have, our government, very wise government that we have, is trying to amend a law which does not exist. It amounts to trying to revive a person who has been dead for 7 years and then saying that now we will do a transplant on this person. And why this strange attempt is being made so that the judgment of the Delhi High Court, which holds BJP and Congress guilty of accepting foreign money, can be set aside. Now, this is an act which has happened in the past. The Delhi High Court has very clearly said, but since they are not able to find any way out, rather than own up that the Delhi High Court is correct, under law, foreign money was accepted, which is a violation of FCRA, and BJP and Congress should say, yes, we have made a mistake. But instead of that, such outrageous things are being done. If the FCRA is amended to permit foreign money to flow into the country, we can forget about transparency or anything else. We will have loads and loads of foreign money coming into political parties, and foreign entities, corporates or otherwise, will control the policy of the government of India.
Okay.
How can we tolerate that?
Very, very crucial questions there. Mohammad Khan, spokesperson from the Congress party, is joining me now on the discussion. Mr. Khan, in all of those debates on the budget, we never heard a word about this from Congress leaders in the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha. Why is there no concern on this? Is it because it suits your party as well?
First of all, my name is Suleiman Muhammad Khan. My name is Suleiman.
Yes, Mr. Suleiman.
Secondly, about your question, let me reply. You know, this bill was brought by the government which is ruling the country right now. Congress is not the party which is governing the nation. It is in opposition. And we have seen this BJP government, NDA government from past 3.5 years, that it has brought bill in the parliament to to benefit itself and its corporate friends. We have seen in 2014 when this Modi government brought this amendment to the land ordinance, Land Acquisition Act. An ordinance was brought when the bill was opposed by the Congress party, so that the land of the poor farmers are not snatched by the corporates, and they have to back out on that bill because Congress opposed it. The same way they have brought this bill. I think it's a money bill, so there's no need for a debate in the Rajya Sabha. Generally, this happens. They have brought this Aadhaar Act and just to evade debate in Rajya Sabha. But Congress party stand is very clear. The stand of the Congress party, and more particularly Rahul Gandhi ji, has said in past 7-8 years that even the political parties must be brought into the Right to Information Act, and RTI should be, the people can seek information from political parties about their funding and other things. So we are very clear, Congress party is for transparency. This bill has been brought by the BJP, the ruling party. All these questions can be better answered by the party which is ruling the country.
I'm going to ask Jagdeep Chokhar if he's convinced by your answer, but it's not like the Congress party doesn't hold press conferences on things which are in the money bill. Nothing is stopping you from saying that you're unhappy with this. I think it's a little convenient today to say, oh, it's their bill, because it suits you as well. But I'm going to leave it to Mr. Jagdeep Chokhar to ask him if he's finding your response convincing. Mr. Chokhar.
No, ask BJP first.
You see, the representative of the Congress just said that the Congress and the president of the Congress have said...
Unfortunately, you came in after I had asked my questions to the BJP, but I will go back to them. Do not worry, sir. Yes, Mr. Chokhar.
The Congress representative just said that the Congress party and its president have said that they are. Can I speak?
Yes, sir, please go on.
The Congress representative has just said that the Congress party and its president have said that the Congress party is willing to be under the Right to Information Act. This is absolutely wrong. The Congress party has also, like 5 other national parties, been defying a 2013 order of the Central Information Commission, against which they have also filed appeals in the Supreme Court. Now, to say that we are under RTI, we want to be under RTI, and then not accept RTI application, is a very strange phenomenon. Now, the phenomenon of politicians, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
Now, first of all, this RTI information that the gentleman was giving is wrong, and I would like to contradict that right now. The other thing is that, yes, bringing it as a money bill is wrong. It is illegal. We have questioned the electoral bonds in the Supreme Court because they were brought under the money bill. We perhaps will question this also once it is passed. But since all political parties seem to benefit and the carrot of foreign money coming to them is being dangled in front of them, nobody seems to be interested in opposing this.
Okay. China NC, you said that some donors need...
Gandhi has a view that political parties can come under RTI. That is what I said.
Okay. Some donors, China NC, you said earlier that some donors need anonymity for whatever reason.
You have not come under RTI. You are refusing to accept RTI applications.
Okay. China
please,
NC.
sir, I have said I am very clear.
One second. When I say so, please,
my leader
Mr.
has
Suleiman,
this view. We can have a discussion on that.
When I come to you, and you can have that discussion maybe later, but now the point I'm coming to. China NC, you said earlier that some donors need anonymity for whatever reason. Mr. Chokar has made the point that to give anonymity to foreign donors could be dangerous. And coming to the point that how can you go back and amend a rule which no longer exists as far back as 1976? For what purpose? Why should the same standards of transparency which apply to every Indian citizen not apply to political parties, China NC?
No, I don't think this is, if at all, the BJP has only talked about transparency. The fact that you have amendments made where people can only donate by check and very limited values in small denominations is a historic move done by leadership in terms of the political will of Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Arun Jaitley. So I think we are clear on intent. Nobody can question our intent or integrity. The Congress very conveniently talks about right to information on all fronts, and there should be all kinds of pressure where we should expose everything which is in the public domain. I want to ask why this double speak, and I want to say that if we have talked about FCRA amendments where we want larger people to participate in public life but in a healthy, transparent way, it is being welcomed by all political parties. Nobody seems to have a problem with that.
Okay.
So I think the question you asked earlier about people wanting insulation, some people would feel that if they donate in large amounts to a particular party, the other party will target them, or could be the precedent of political vendetta, as we have seen in the Congress regime. I don't think that this in the long run is a very strong argument.
Okay, so
because everybody knows
that
if you participate in election practicing, as in the US, you will see a better, healthier democracy in India.
Only 2 points.
Yes, Mr. Khan.
Only 2 points. One, Ms. China NC was saying that BJP is very transparent. During demonetization, just prior to demonetization, 23 plots of land in Bihar were transferred as a property of Bihar BJP. Crores of rupees were transferred into the account of West Bengal Bharatiya Janata Party cell. So a lot of money was transferred into their accounts. BJP is the richest party of the country, I think, of the world. They are, please, China, let me complete. You have a lot of money, show it. You are the richest. Where come you got so much of money?
Leadership in the
no, who has contributed?
Let me. The most
China, let me. Oh no, this way I cannot reply.
Okay, honestly,
please. No, he is not charismatic. You are.
We'll have to speak.
You are saving corrupt. You are saving corrupt, and your party is corrupt.
Okay, no.
You are corrupt. Your party is corrupt. You are saving the corrupt. Let me be very blunt.
In this saving,
yes.
I'm just going to.
What is in the Rafale deal? Who got money in Rafale? Why don't you show the prices of the Rafale jets?
But Mr. Suleiman Mohammed Khan.
You know, this is not the way.
No, I agree. This is not the way.
You don't seem to have another issue.
I agree. This is not the way. You should speak one by one.
China, you have to keep quiet so that I can reply to it.
Mr. Jagdeep Chokhar in the end. Mr. Jagdeep Chokhar, now my question to you is, and hopefully I can hear only Mr. Jagdeep Chokhar's voice. Mr. Jagdeep Chokhar, my question to you is that at the end of the day, can something be done about this, or is it as simple as this was passed in a money bill and is done? Because clearly, apart from all the grandstanding right now on the show, none of these parties are going to pick up an issue about this.
You see, amending a law which has been repealed is not possible. It is bad in law. And if this is done, whether through a money bill or whatever, it will be challenged in the court. BJP and Congress cannot get away from the fact that they have violated the FCRA before 2010, in 2009 and before that. Now, this is the issue in this case which nobody is addressing. The issue is violation of Foreign Contribution Regulations Act by the two major parties in the country as determined by the Delhi High Court and indirectly, established in the Supreme Court. The two parties want to get out of that stigma. That is the problem, and they are not going to be able to get away because 1976 law, which was repealed in 2010, I am repeating myself, cannot be amended. It is a dead law.
Okay.
I mean, this is just sheer obstinacy and trying to, buy time and hoodwink people. There's nothing else to it. They must own up that they have violated the law. They must say we are guilty, and whatever action is required under FCRA, they should face that and accept that and get on with it.
I think the very
under the garb of trying to get out of the judgment, trying to invite foreign money into the country is dangerous. Everybody knows that.
Well, I think the very least that people would expect is that the same standards apply.
But the BJP has to answer all this.
Is that the same standards apply? Well, right now the government of the day has moved this amendment, so they have to reply, but so does the opposition party, who picks and chooses which issues they want to rake up. Thank you so much, China NC, Suleiman Mohammed Khan and Jagdeep Chokhar for speaking with us this evening on Primetime Debate.